unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level
up. Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
level up, 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 level up.
I know radio probably ain't gonna play this, but chopper going off in the hood, man, like Afghanistan or the Gaza Strip somewhere, man. Yeah. We hear so much, we probably know them to it by now. After all, it's the American way, right?
Home of the brave and free.
It's America.
Free just to murder me.
Land of the handgun.
Land of the beautiful.
Home of the shotgun.
Cursed by the hate withdrawn.
You're dead if you ain't got one. It was like this before I got here, baby. I ain't do it. You said it the home of the brave, I get. I said it the home of the K's and the vet. All alone with the J, smoking distressed. Home chrome with the text, up the spray for respect. I learned from the bed, you can stay in the jet. Brought word from the vets,
KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I am thrilled to welcome into the space this morning a young activist, lead organizer of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles Youth Vanguard, an organizer with LA Students Deserve. Of course, those of you paying attention know that young people have been a big part of BLM since their inception, with kids and teenagers participating in the very first meetings, actions, and convenings. And back in 2015, youth leaders officially formed a Black Lives Matter Youth Vanguard and started organizing around justice for black young people, especially in schools. And welcoming now Amara Abdullah. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you in. You are still in high school, and you've been an activist since really a little kid.
Yeah. Honestly, kind of before a little kid. I'm sure my mom was out pregnant with me and protesting and everything.
Right, of course. Your mom, of course, is one of the conveners of Black Lives Matter, Dr. Melina Abdullah. But, you know, it's funny. I have this whole theory about children of the movement being one of the benefits of the movement long term, from Malcolm X all the way to, Tupac. But some folks go the other way, right? They have parents who are super social justice activists, and they go Republican Party. They take the Stacey Dash path. That never crossed your mind? You never thought, well, I'm going to rebel against my mom by being a young Republican?
Well, no. And I know you're also the child of someone in the movement, so you would probably have like a similar experience to me. But me and my mom definitely have political disagreements. But, holistically, we both strongly believe that the liberation of Black people is through, a radical movement. And so I that never really crossed my mind, not even a little bit.
It's funny you said that. 'Cause, yeah, I think we do in the sense that I was, taken to protests and picket lines since I was too small to
Right.
walk, right? And
Right.
and there's a pressure and an expectation, at least in my perception. But I also agree with you that we have our own minds. Like I didn't necessarily. It's not like went to some camp and got programmed to believe everything our parents believed.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there were definitely I had some disagreements with my dad and my mom politically.
Right.
Yeah, and I think right now, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I am trying to wean myself from the habit and wean our radio station from the habit of theorizing and opining about young people without getting y'all's input, right? It seems to
Right.
me as a mama of a teenager that you guys are really pushing the envelope, even compared to those of us who consider ourselves to be, progressive. I feel like the young generation, from what I observe, you guys are less patient, less compromising, less, less go along to get along.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think what's special about us, and honestly, all young people in all generations, young people have almost always been the ones, creating the heat when it comes to actually vouching for what you want. I think what's different now is not accepting what they're willing to give us and instead making them give us what we want and what we say we want, and also taking the practices from the generations before us. I think like a lot of people make the mistake of, kind of accepting their terms instead of forcing them to accept ours.
Yeah, well said. Amara, when you talk about what is acceptable versus how you're pushing the line, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, well, this is what activists have always done, or these are our options, and you guys are inventing your own options.
Right.
Yeah, where does that come from? I mean, what is it? How do you come to that point?
Well, like I said, we also know the importance of actually looking back at past generations and taking those lessons that they're willing to give us and really listening to our elders when they try to teach us about movement and teach us about activism. But one of the things that we also see in the past when it comes to, movements for social justice in general, not necessarily just the liberation of Black people, but everything, is systems are always willing to give you what won't hurt them, in the long run. And a lot of youth has kind of seen that, and a lot of youth is like, well, I'm not going to accept your terms because your terms are just racist with a little cherry on top, they'll have something that's racist on the inside at the center of it, but then say, oh, well, we're gonna try to give police officers reform. Oh, we're gonna try to keep the school police on campus, but just make sure they don't pepper spray kids. But we're actually trying to focus on attacking the root of the problem and really understanding where these problems are coming from instead of just erasing the surface level issue.
Yeah, the cosmetic
So,
part. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And everything has an origin. And I know that everyone has always known that. But I think what's special about us is we're actually attacking the origin,
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. When I see the war on woke that's happening with a lot of these politicians, the Ron DeSantis's of the world, that to me it's partly because so many young people marched with Black Lives Matter in 2020, started changing their outlook, started reading more and watching more videos and seeing as you say, the origins of the problem that we have in the United States with anti-blackness and racism, white supremacy. What's your perception of why that war on wokeness or the attempts to make woke a bad word have caught fire in conservative movements?
Honestly, I didn't even know that it had become an insult to call somebody woke. Maybe I just subconsciously took that as a compliment every time. But, I think there's always going to be this right-wing approach to, leftism where, and I don't identify with anything. I think, I don't identify with anything.
With anything, you mean a party or
an
ideology or left or right?
Yeah,
a label. You don't identify with a label.
Yeah, I'm just me.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be this right-wing approach to leftism to kind of make it seem like people who have radical beliefs are just stupid. And so I think because the right wing is the ones who actually are running the country and the ones who actually occupy these racist, unjust systems that are keeping us down, they believe that inherently makes it so that anything they say is automatically true. When we attack these systems with actual facts and actual, historical context, and we say where the oppression of our people comes from, and the finger points to them, they instead try to say, well, you're stupid for even thinking that it's possible to tear us down, But we've already begun, and it's already started to happen. And I think that's why it's important to look back at past generations, because nobody is going to move anything if there's no heat on them,
Yeah.
So, like I said before, we're here to create the heat.
Right. I think it's echoing, it's giving Frederick Douglass, Amara Abdullah, power concedes nothing without a struggle. Talking with Amara Abdullah, and you, if you want to join the conversation, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Want to look at, the Middle East. I think young voices are driving that conversation differently than I've seen it exploding on the national and international scene in the past. I want to talk about how the election shenanigans and the Trump legal troubles, how they impact you, how you view this democracy and voting. And we got a few more things to throw in there. How's Biden doing from your perspective? And I always ask this when I get the chance to have a young activist on, or young people of any ilk on, what are we, generations, millennial, X, and the boomers getting wrong? What are we missing? What should we be paying more attention to with this young generation? I'm really, really think it's important for us to push back past the stereotypes and talking points that we have about our own children and young adults and get to what's really going on. So we'll have all that coming forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm MC Light. You know me as the rapper. But guess what? I am the CEO of Sunny Girl Incorporated. We call it SGI. And SGI undoubtedly has a Cadillac, an Escalade to be exact. It's luxury at its finest. It's black, it's sleek, it's clean, and I can show up to any red carpet or any event and feel like I'm flossing. I love it. Cadillac.
Visit Cadillac.com for more.
Hey, nacho fries are back at Taco Bell, and there's even more fries to love. But they're not going to hang around forever, so don't wait. Or you might miss out on these hot, crisp fries covered in all those bold Mexican spices with delicious nacho cheese sauce. Or wait and just settle for flavorless fries. Regular, bland, spiceless, flavorless, flimsy, non-nacho fries. Just an absolute bummer of a fry.
Nacho fries are back. Get them today, only at Taco Bell. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last. Contact local store for hours and participation which vary.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
We're talking with Amara Kioni. She is a lead organizer with BLMLA Youth Vanguard. And if you want to go on Instagram, it's BLM Youth Vanguard, BLM Youth Vanguard. Amara Kioni, I threw out a whole bunch of stuff. But I want to start with this because I've been talking with some young people from this organization called Live Your Life, and under the leadership of Mama Boo, who will be in actually later today to share her story from trauma to being a real powerful leader in our community. And she brought in some 13-year-olds, which, you know, is very young to be talking on the radio. They did a great job. And I asked them the same question, like, what is it that the older folks, especially those with microphones and leadership positions, are missing about your generation, Generation Z, and younger?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I think there's anything that they're missing aside from like little niche things that have to do with like social media marketing and things like that. But I do think that older generations would do better if, you know, we integrated ourselves among generations, you know? I think that we do better together. And honestly, that's the only concern that I have. I love working with older generations. I think one of the things that we should let go of, though, as a people, as a nation, honestly, I never say as a nation.
Well, just for today. Just for today.
youth for today as a nation is accepting the fact that, some people are just quote unquote old school. It's not okay. We have come up with all of these beliefs that we stand by and that we live our lives by as young people. And they come from the mistreatment of marginalized people in past generations. And, when older people, look at our practices and actually say, oh, I'm not doing that. I guess I'm just old school. It's something that kind of brushes the problem away and takes the accountability off of them and instead creates, spaces where we aren't allowed to hold older generations accountable, such as Roe v. Wade, And we end up in situations like that because we've allowed these older generations to just say, well, I'm just from a different time. I guess I'm just old school. But this is our time now, and we're the ones, facing the repercussions of their quote unquote old school beliefs. So that's probably the biggest one for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, Amara Kioni, because it's kind of like I've heard that too, and I never thought of it that way. But I see young people, your generation in particular, pushing the envelope when it comes to gender roles, when it comes to sexual orientation, things like pronouns, things like what you were talking about earlier about whether we accept what's offered or whether we push the line further, and I was surprised a member of my own family struggling with this idea of pronouns. Why is that hard? I don't know. I feel like we are always evolving our phones and our fashion sense, no matter how old we get, most of us. And so why can't we evolve our mindset?
Right. I definitely think that pronouns is a great example because we evolve how we speak all the time.
Right.
It's not acceptable anymore to regularly refer to Black people as Negroes. So why would it be acceptable for you to change your speech in another way, And I think that that's one of the things that, people are kind of afraid to correct one another on because, that argument that nobody should be identifying as non-binary anyway has not gotten less heated.
Yeah. No, it hasn't.
Right. And I wish that we were stronger in the way where we were able to actually challenge, this idea of just expecting somebody, well, just respect me. But like I said before, we actually want to attack the root of the problem and attack the reason why they believe that it's okay to tell someone else how to identify.
And what do you think the root of that is? I mean, when you look at it, you say attack the root of the problem. I go to the great Black scholar Neely Fuller, who just said in the United Independent Compensatory Code System, I forget the final word in the title of that book, you call people what they want to be called. I mean, to me, that is not rocket science.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just people might individually not have a problem with people having different pronouns. But when they have to explain, they say, they're coming. And then somebody says, well, who is they? It's multiple people. And then you have to explain it. And you don't know if the other person is going to agree with it. And, it ends up being a little argument that people would rather just not want to have.
Yeah.
But my concern is, do you think that it's more harmful to have the argument, or do you think it's more harmful for somebody to feel dehumanized, for somebody to feel disrespected, for somebody to feel like nobody actually pays attention to the way that they feel when people refer to them,
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and I was talking about this with one of our guests last week. It's like, if it was so confusing, then that would mean you would be regularly accidentally calling your mom him. You know what I mean? You would regularly accidentally be misgendering other people, and that doesn't really happen in most conversations. It only happens when the person in question has a pronoun that you don't agree with.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, it's just people not wanting to release these practices that they've had for their entire lives, kind of not refusing to acknowledge, the fact that the world changes and the fact that every marginalized group is going to have an uprising eventually. And, this is just the way that this one is expressed.
Every marginalized group is going to have an uprising eventually. There's a phrase with a worldview that's built in. We've talked about some of the things we're going to touch on when we come forward. I want to talk about elections, voting. I want to talk about Trump's troubles and how you see them. But another thing we'll look at, Amara Kioni, after news, traffic, and sports is this idea or this vibration that I'm getting from you, which is a vibration of optimism. I mean, for all of the clear-eyed criticisms that I hear coming from you, there is an overriding sense of optimism. What keeps you there? Continuing the conversation with Amara Kioni after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Georgia, state lawmakers are still expected to meet as scheduled for a special session to redraw political maps later this month. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office stated yesterday that it wouldn't request a stay to block proceedings, but would still appeal a judge's decision to force the state to come up with new lines. U.S. District Judge Steve Jones has ordered the state to draw up another majority black congressional district. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's being subpoenaed to produce documents in a California criminal case. The California Democrat informed the House of Representatives on Wednesday, which is standard procedure when members are issued subpoenas. Pelosi didn't give any specific information about the case, but it's reportedly related to last year's attack against her husband. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Don't let a traffic accident ruin your day. Visit fixautousa.com to find the nearest Fix Auto location. Their highly trained and certified technicians will have you back on the road in no time. You have a choice on who fixes your vehicle. Tell your insurance agent that you want to go to Fix Auto.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers finally get a win in the Battle of LA. They beat the Clippers by 5 last night in overtime. First win for the Lakers over the Clippers since July 30th, 2020, when the NBA was in the bubble down in Orlando. The win snapped an 11-game losing streak to the Clippers. Austin Reeves scored 7 of his 15 points in overtime. LeBron played 42 minutes. He led the Lakers with 35 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. Congratulations to the Texas Rangers and their shortstop Corey Seager. The Rangers shut out the Arizona Diamondbacks last night to win their first World Series. The Rangers did it in 5 games. They were 11-0 on the road in the postseason. Seager, who played 7 seasons with the Dodgers, was named World Series MVP. Seager had 3 homers and 6 RBIs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium is here. Switch to my plan from Verizon at your local store today, and you'll get the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro on us with unlimited ultimate when you trade in any iPhone, any model, any condition. Guaranteed. Yep, even the old phone in your pocket right now. It's your Verizon. $999.99 128GB only. Device payment purchase or full retail purchase with new smartphone line on unlimited ultimate plan required. Less $1,000 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. So minivans, sedans, JDMs, roll out. Go ahead. Feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. And with eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
You're all set with your Medicare prescriptions, Mrs. Brown.
This is not just low-cost copays at Walgreens.
I can actually help you set up 90-day refills if you want.
This is having a partner you can trust. Get low-cost copays, 90-day refills, and delivery from your neighborhood Walgreens. This is being independent. Together. Walgreens.
Restrictions apply. For details, see walgreens.com/pharmacy.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Amara Kioni is my guest this hour. She is one of the founders, leaders of the Black Lives Matter Los Angeles Youth Vanguard, LA Students Deserve, which has famously significantly reduced the number of cops on campuses and helped foster the Black Student Achievement Plan, both of which have been super important for young people, Black people and BIPOC people, really, young people here in Southern California. Of all the things you've done as an activist, Amara Kioni, what stands out to you? What do you feel most happy about?
Well, I'd love to give that generic answer that everything is equally important, and it is. But, something that was specifically relieving to me was actually fully removing police officers from LAUSD campuses. Because everyone knows that police disproportionately target Black and brown students. And when we have them in such close proximity, where we see them coming to, stationed at our school in the morning at 7:30 in the morning, we start to believe that we are the problem. And know that my peers don't have to experience that, to know that my 13-year-old brother doesn't have to experience that, feels like we're actually making a difference, because it shows that we are making a difference. When we see the Black Student Achievement Plan that came out of that funding with the removal of police officers, and we see that Black students are now going to college at a higher rate, that Black students are doing well academically at a higher rate, that our attendance is better, that our mental health is better now with these psychiatric social workers. It makes me feel good, because it's not only, attacking the surface level problem, but also allowing for Black students to better themselves with that extra funding that was left over.
Yeah, I think it's a huge achievement, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm sure that it's got to feel great since you yourself have had you know some not so wonderful encounters with cops on high school campuses. So good on you for not just complaining, but doing something about it.
Right.
Kioni, how do you view all of the legal troubles, that our president has now? The fact that he's got 91 accounts against him in all these various lawsuits. We're starting to see some of these cases, pick up, and we'll see a lot more in 2024. How do you process that?
Are you talking about Donald Trump?
Yes.
I was a little confused.
I did say our president, our former president, I should say, and our hopefully never again president.
Yeah, right. Never my president, but
okay, I got you. Yeah, well, I didn't vote for him either, but I lived through it.
Right, right. Well, this country has a belief that it's okay if somebody is problematic as long as they're white and Republican. So,
that is so true.
All of these issues that Donald Trump has would never fly if it was a black person, if it was a woman, if it was, another person of color. He literally is a man who grew up white and rich and, has had everything laid out for him from the moment that he was born. I don't even understand fully how he's not, banned from running again. But I think it's important that we also look at the fact that, Donald Trump is literally everyone's worst nightmare. If Donald Trump was not Donald Trump, nobody would want to be around him. Nobody would vote for him. And I know it's kind of funny, but it's also true.
That's why I'm laughing, because it's very true. I mean, it's funny because it's true, right?
Right. In what world do we accept the fact that someone sexualizes their daughter, that someone has multiple sexual assault charges against them or allegations against them? I don't know if he's been charged. Multiple, cases of fraud against them. All of these issues are everyone's worst nightmare. He's the political monster. And so, not even just political. He's a monster. And so, the fact that we're allowing him to run for re-election or run for election period just shows, how much more work we have to do. Everyone says we've come so far and, this country is so progressive. And this just shows that we're much further behind than most people believe.
This will be the first election in 2024 where you're actually old enough to vote. Well, will you be old enough to vote in time?
Yes, I'll be old enough to vote. I'll just make it. I'll be turning 18 in September.
Well, yeah, so you just like literally 1 month before the election, you'll be old enough to vote. Will you vote?
Yes, I'm pre-registered.
Okay, you're already ready to go. So I want to say not just a political monster, as you call him, he who shall not be named, as I call the 45th president, but also, Biden is not discouraging you from voting.
No, and, I think every black person's stance on voting is complicated. But my mom always says, and I'm pretty sure this is a quote from someone else, but I hear it from her most, that faith without works is dead. And what that means to me in this context is voting is important, and we should vote. And we should actually, express our concerns through the ballot box. But we also need to force the people who are in these positions to actually give us what we want, because we know that a lot of elected officials will promise certain things before they're elected. And we believe that we've finally, made some change through the system without working against the system, and then they end up being corrupted by the system. We saw that with Obama especially. And so, yes, I'm going to vote, but I'm also going to apply pressure where it needs to be applied.
So just for context, the faith without works is dead is actually from the Bible, which I know your mom is probably not quoting all the time because she's a Muslim. But yeah, that's a biblical quote. Well, it's not exactly. It's a, what do you call it? A paraphrasing of a biblical quote.
Yeah.
So is that where your enthusiasm, your optimism, even in the face of monsters and complex kind of navigation of voting?
Well, I encourage voting. I'm actually working with the Black Student Achievement Plan to create a voter registration panel coming up in February, featuring Karen Bass for other Black LAUSD seniors who will be voting in the upcoming election. And I also have friends who are planning to go into politics. One of my closest friends, Henna, is planning to go into politics. She was on your show a couple weeks ago. And I think there's always this idea of shying away from politics as Black people because we know the dangers of it, and we know the dangers of actually exposing ourselves to politics. But that's not to say that we can't have an uncorrupt politician. It's just we actually have to have somebody who's willing to stand 10 toes down and actually, stand on that and make the change that needs to be made. And so I'm not against voting in any way. I don't think that voting is bad. I think I've established that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, Jay at thinking outside of on Twitter says, responding to what we were talking about concerning the 45th president, I clearly blame the IRS for not stopping him a long time ago. He did something that no other president has done. He normalized the presidency that broke the laws and restructured the Republican Party. No president has that much free time to go to rallies. Interesting. Amara Abdullah, a.k.a. Amara Kioni, really is my guest this morning. If you want to find out more about the work she's doing, LA Students Deserve is on Instagram. So is BLM Youth Vanguard, both available on Instagram. Continuing the conversation, you're invited in 800-920-1580, and you're listening to The Spot, where we amplify Black and progressive voices around the clock. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
The Green Foundation, key health influencer, empowering our Black communities through action. The Green Foundation advocates for affordable health care, accessibility, and knows the importance of culturally relatable health care. Regardless of income, we believe it is a right for optimum health. The Green Foundation has been at the forefront for 25 years, dedicated solely to promoting prevention through early detection, annual screenings, and nutrition. We know you because we are you. Our hand-holding approach supports you and your family to receive your right to be treated fairly and receiving quality healthcare services. We want you and your family to know COVID-19 was devastating to our families and to our wallet. We can build back better by understanding prevention, wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and understanding the impact of long COVID. Get the care you deserve. Take advantage of your privileges. Contact us, info@thegreenfoundation.net. info@thegreenfoundation.net.
This open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is offering health plans starting at $0 a month. Each plan provides benefits including $0 preventive services, 24/7 telehealth services, around-the-clock nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, and more. Shop and compare premium silver plans with $0 deductibles to help meet your health goals. Ready to shop? Visit us online at lacarecovered.org for a commitment-free instant quote or speak with us directly at 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered, your affordable path to wellness.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now, let's get back to Amara Kioni. So I mentioned this. We've been talking about all kinds of things. I mentioned that I feel like your generation, the Generation Z and the younger ones too, have been pushing the envelope a little bit on the conversation around Palestine and Israel. And it's interesting to me because I feel like, as someone who's been on the radio for a long time and been an activist for a long time, this conflict cycles through. It cycles through protests. It cycles through the news. It cycles through our global dilemmas, right? And I feel like the conversation is really different this time, not just because of social media, but because of younger generations. How do you perceive it?
Well, I perceive the American stance on it to be very ignorant. I think that a lot of citizens, not just the people who are in government, but citizens as well, I wish that we did a better job of actually seeking out knowledge on these issues that are happening outside of our country, instead of ignorantly answering questions, ignorantly following certain sides that we're told to follow. I think one of the things that bothers me the most about how this country has chosen to go about the whole Israel-Palestine situation is the fact that most people don't even know what's going on, and so they just follow Israel.
Right.
And we see that happening with a lot of young people. We see that happening with everyone, honestly. And that's really irritating to me. I come from, a long line of activists. My grandfather is an activist. He's, a man who has told me that it's free Palestine for my entire life. And so this is really confusing to me specifically because I just can't understand how people are equating a single terrorist attack to decades and decades of occupation, of oppression, of, hate, people being, tortured in their own country, in their own home. And, I've always been on the side, I always am going to be on the side of the people who are being oppressed. As a Black person, as a queer person, as a woman, as a young woman. And so it's just really upsetting to me, and it makes me emotional sometimes, actually seeing that people can, be okay with the way that these Palestinian people are being treated. And it's also Islamophobia, because if, Palestine was not a Muslim country, then they wouldn't, nobody, at least not on this scale, people would not think that it's okay to actually treat people like this, especially not in their own country.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to that. I mean, it's really good job laying it out, just in terms of this history, going back not just to 1967, not just to 1948, but even before that, and how people are confused, right? So people who are strongly against anti-Semitism, people who are united with Jewish struggles for liberation and safety, there's no conflict with standing for oppressed Palestinians, standing for ceasefire, and the fact that literally, the last time I checked, the death toll was at 8,500. I'm sure it's gone up from that. That's just staggering to me. The fact that it's even controversial to say ceasefire and to call for a ceasefire now is amazing to me. And I think I think you're right. Some of it is about the fact, because some of it is about is Islamophobia. I think some of it is racism, even though, Palestinians aren't technically black, but they tend to be more brown, and they tend to be more categorized as, Jewish people. The Jewish faith can be anybody, right? We know there's Jewish Ethiopians, there's Jewish people of all different races, but in this country, we tend to equate Jewish more with whiteness, even though they're still subject of a lot of anti-Semitic attacks and hate. So to me, it is confusing, because you got white supremacists who actually are actively Nazis, siding with Israel against Palestinians, even though they're actually anti-Semitic. Okay, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but it's really meant to kind of back up what you're saying, that a lot of folks are having opinions and reactions based on very little information.
Yes, and one of the things that I wish we would stop doing is, having this belief that neutrality is the solution. This is a situation where being neutral is literally worsening the problem. It's getting into the practice of ignoring what's going on and saying, I wish we could just love each other, when that's unfortunately not the case. And the reality of the situation is there are generations of lives who have been lost because of people trying to remain neutral, because of people trying to say that, well, both sides are wrong. Why can't they just come together and have an understanding? There's no way that people actually believe that that is the solution. I think it's, people who don't want to lose the support of certain people who, may have to say things like that, who aren't allowed to take a side. But that's why I think it's important for us as people who, don't hold any sort of position that would deter us from being able to take a side. Actually, what we say in my generation is standing on business and actually standing 10 toes down and, claiming that belief wholeheartedly. I think it was Kwame Ture. He says that there is a difference between peace and liberation. You can have injustice and still have peace. This idea of peace is not a solution, because until we're liberated and actually attacking these problems, I keep saying that, but it's so true. Until we're liberated and actually attack these problems, there will never truly be peace.
Right. I mean, it's the no justice, no peace conversation, right? Well, you can
Right.
stop killing Palestinian children. We could stop that right now and then sit down and talk about what justice looks like. What does a two-state solution really, really mean? What does the, further encroachment on the land really, really look like? The stopping, I should say, of further encroachment on the land really, really look like? And yeah, so I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said, but I do think you have to start with you start with ceasefire, and then you start looking at real justice rather than going back to business as usual, which is occupation and and settler violence and encroachment on the land of the already very small amount of land that has been that remains for the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Okay, well, we had some folks that want to talk to you. You're going to have to wait till next time Amara Kioni comes back on the show. But Amara, I had asked you, what keeps you engaged? What keeps you strong? What you look at what's going on with Palestine, Israel. You look at what's going on with Biden and all these other folks. It would be easy to be discouraged, but you don't seem at all discouraged. What keeps you engaged and encouraged?
I honestly feel like my family keeps me engaged and encouraged. My community keeps me engaged and encouraged. I know that's the answer that a lot of people would give to that question, but it's for good reason. When you've been encouraged by everyone around you and supported by everyone around you, and also given those criticisms that you need in order to be your best self, it shows you that you're a person who can make the change. So, I don't really have any doubt that I'm going to be a person who either inspires other people to make a big difference or I make a big difference myself, because the people who I have around me and my support system stand so firmly in what they believe and, actually analyzes how we're going to make change.
Well, Amara Kioni, thank you so much for being with me this morning. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Go to BLM Youth Vanguard on Instagram. And looking forward to the conversation with Nikisha Mama Boo Scott. Her story next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Georgia, state lawmakers are still expected to meet as scheduled for a special session to redraw political maps later this month. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office stated yesterday that it wouldn't request a stay to block proceedings, but would still appeal a judge's decision to force the state to come up with new lines. U.S. District Judge